On today's Throwback, we're going to be having a look at Spiderman Classics Scorpion. And again, you're probably saying to yourself, hey, you've reviewed this already. And the honest truth is, I think when I did the initial review, it might have been either my third or my fourth review ever. And I really honestly wasn't happy with how I shot the video. I tried to incorporate some backstory to the character, and for one reason or another, the review just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. So I figured this was prime opportunity to go back and reshoot it as a throwback. So hopefully it can turn out a little bit better than it did last time, because let me tell you, there were a lot of things I didn't like about that video. And I'll probably get into that as I'm doing the review of the figure. Before we look at his accessories, we get a look at the figure itself. This is the only, as far as I know, this is the only Scorpion figure made. At least in a Marvel Legends scale. I mean, the figure itself is quite substantially large. There was also a metallic version of this figure, a straight repaint. There wasn't anything different about the face or anything else. But it was a metallic green. And being more of a purist and a big fan of like the older, like the '67 Spider-Man cartoon series, and even like the '90s Spider-Man, I prefer the more painted green and then with the stripes all down them. That's the way I prefer Scorpion, at least. And then he's got this really large tail. I mean, this tail is so cool. Really, really neat. As you can see, there's a couple of holes in the actual tail, and the reason for it is because it is a pipe cleaner wire frame, so you can actually bend his tail in different positions until you're happy with where you get it. The only downside to the tail is, unless you have it leaning forward, to have it further back makes him very back heavy. And let me tell you, this figure has fallen several times. I really like the face sculpt on it, though. It's very unique to Scorpion. I mean, the elongated jaw, I think you can make out like he's got that sneer on his face. Really nice. I really, really like that. Now, in the way of his articulation, he has articulation in the head, which appears to be a ball joint. Although it really doesn't bend up or down, it just really allows you to swivel back and forth. He has the articulated shoulders. He's got the swivel bicep. He's got the 2-point articulation in the elbows. He can swivel at the, I guess, the forearm. There's a joint in his hand. There is also articulation in the 3 fingers, which I think is really neat as well. So you can actually have him lunging towards Spider-Man if you have him on a set, on a diorama. He has articulated waist. Now, the only downside to the waist is, I find, at least mine, it doesn't really move all that much. Now, he does have articulated, well, mid-torso he's got the articulation. He also has the articulation in the waist, but again, it really doesn't move very much. He has the articulated legs, the ball-jointed legs. He has the 2-point articulated knees. He has a swivel in his calf. He has articulated feet, and he also has an articulated toe. So again, you can get lots of articulation from this guy. Lots of articulation. Now, he has a gimmick, which luckily for us, his gimmick doesn't impede the figure at all. Nothing worse, and if you've seen my review of Electro, you'll know this too. Like when you have a gimmick and it takes away from the character, at least in the case of Electro, you couldn't bend his arms because he had these missiles you could put in his forearms, and I thought that was so crappy. But he has a gimmick in his tail, so I mean, it doesn't take away from the figure. He comes with 2 missiles, as you can see here, and the missiles can actually slip into the tail of Scorpion, and there is a little button on the bottom. Now, originally when I did this review, I took the figure out of the package and I just did the review. I didn't quite look at it, and I thought the button was up here, and boy did I have egg on my face. The button actually is on the bottom. It is strange that it isn't on the top, but you actually take the button and you can just press it to fire the missile. I mean, you get good range from it, but again, it's nice that the gimmick is not on the figure itself. I mean, I don't ever plan on having this guy on display with these missiles. I just think it's pointless. But he does have one other accessory, and I'll put this guy probably at the back just because I don't think he's going to stand. He might stand. He's saying, hey, he's lunging for a newspaper. But he does come with a newspaper box. As you can see, it says Spider-Man New York Hero, NY Hero, Daily Bugle. A nice little news box. I think that's pretty neat. Now this has a gimmick as well, but if you ask me, I prefer just to have it on display as a newspaper box. I think I said it during my review of the Tarantula figure that I think all figures should come with like a little something. Like Tarantula has little crates, for example, that you can stack little boxes. The Scorpion here comes with a newspaper box. It'd be nice just to have it. Like Spider-Man's got that street light if you get that particular Spider-Man. But it's all nice things that if you collect the figures, you can kind of, somewhat put them all together and make it like a city scene. But the gimmick with this newspaper box, and this was something else I couldn't figure out at the time that I did the review. Foolish me. But there's a little button at the top here. And as you can see, the newspaper box is intact. Although it's like a fabric, it's not solid plastic. But there's a little button at the top here that when you press it, it actually compacts the newspaper box. The idea behind it is somehow, and I don't know how a kid would be able to do this, but somehow you actually can aim the tail, and the tail is supposed to fire the missile and hit this, and it's supposed to compact the box. Now, what kid's going to have that kind of aim? And I don't think it would hit it hard enough to do it. It might. I mean, it's possible, but to me, that's the way you should have it displayed, is just the newspaper box on its own. I'm not a big fan of gimmicks. Now, in the way of size comparison, I just want to do a size comparison because I didn't do this as well when I did the initial review. Just give you guys a size comparison on this figure. If I bring in, let's say, I bring in Fearsome Foes Spider-Man, because he's a good Spider-Man size. As you can see, he's not too much taller, but he's a lot bigger. I mean, he's a lot bigger in size than Spider-Man, which, that's the way it should be. But I mean, I really like this figure, and I don't know. I don't think he's too much now to find on eBay. I don't think he's too bad. Would I pick him up? Absolutely, I pick him up. I would probably go with this color scheme, this paint application, rather than the metallic, because to me, this is the way Scorpion should be. If you even ask me, I don't even think Scorpion. I don't even know. I don't think he still is, but I don't think he should be Venom anymore. I mean, bring back the original Scorpion with the tail and everything else. I think that's cool. But there you go. I'll move Spider-Man out of the way. But there you have a toy spot on the very large, very green, very large-tailed Scorpion. And I hope that hit the spot. I hope that was a good throwback. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Later.